أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, I'll start by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we will go inshallah through some of the ayahs from Surah Al Imran that we recited about half of it last night during the recitation that we had from the masjid. And subhanallah, Surah Al Imran have special taste. I mean, the Quran itself, each ayah and each harf is very special, very unique, and is there for a purpose. And Al-Quran لا تنقضي عجائب. Quran will never stop to amaze and surprise you with what Allah reveals to you every time that you recite the Quran. So this is inshallah motivation for myself and everyone to keep reciting the Quran and trying to comprehend and understand the meanings of the Quran. The first ayah I want to start by is ayah that starts بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فكيف إذا جمعناهم ليوم لا ريب فيه ووفيت كل نفس ما كسبت وهم لا يظلمون. Said, what if we gathered all of them on a certain day that there is no doubt about it? Of course, it's talking about the day of judgment, where everyone is gathered together and everyone is there, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give every soul what they have done, which means it gives every soul the reward or punishment for every deed that was done. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah thrown it in a way like it's a possibility, but that is a way of assuring that it will happen, that on that day that heaven happen, it will happen, and what is mentioned that it will happen on that day will happen, and that is the complete accurate hisab that does not miss nothing that we did or said in our life. Well, the surah doesn't stop there on that thing, because on that day, to the surprise of some people that are not paying attention, and I hope we're not among those people, the surah goes further and says in a different ayah, يوم تجد كل نفس ما عملت من خير محضرة وما عملت من سوء تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا ويحذركم الله نفسه والله رؤوف بالعباد. And on that same day that we get there and we are together and we are receiving the tally of what we did and what we said and everything that we done, on that day we will find every good thing that we done ready. It is ready, and even the reward for it is being prepared and starting for all of us. And on the other hand, وما عملت من سوء تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. And the bad deeds, the negative stuff, the سيئات, all that stuff on that day, when one sees those things, and probably they forget about them, and they wish that they still forget about them. تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. That they wish that there is big time before we can even be accountable for that part. But this is the wishing on the day of judgment. None of the wishing on the day of judgment is for good. None of it will be granted, and all of it is done by people who missed the chance and the opportunity in this life to do good or to correct their wrongs. So inshallah we will not be among those ones who done any of those negative or bad deeds, and we'll be among the ones that listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and listen to the advice that was given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to tell to us in the ayah that comes after this ayah. قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم. if you love Allah, and this was told to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to tell to us, if you love Allah, then follow the instructions that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was given, then Allah will love you. And you know the blessings and the amount of reward when a person reaches to be to the point where he or she is loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But not only that, يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم, and He will forgive those sins. So when you have the mixture of good and bad deeds, if Allah loves you, and if you don't tried your best to follow the teachings from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, then on that day you will see the result of Allah loving you. By virtue of every good deed that you have, the reward is ready there, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive the bad deeds that we have. And it may not take a lot of effort from us in this life, but it will be the difference between falling in hellfire of the Sirat or passing over the Sirat and ending in Jannah, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given us in this life so many opportunities to correct our path forward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given us many chances to multiply our rewards and to erase our negative and bad deeds, inshallah. The next ayah comes showing us the how to achieve the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the ayah that says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Imagine that. All you need, have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know that you have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you start being a second nature to you, or a first nature to you, that before you do anything or say anything, you run it by the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to say a word. Before I say it, I stop and I say, is this something that's going to please Allah with me? And therefore I say it. Or is this something that Allah said not to say it? And then I stop from saying it. So that's the fruit of having taqwa and presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart. And it works also when we're tempted to do negative things or bad things, that you still will run that and say, is this going to make Allah upset with me? Is this something that Allah forbid? And if so, I restrain myself from doing or saying the negative or bad deed. And therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you hold yourself from doing a negative deed, He will reward you as if you done a good deed. Because that's the act of taqwa. That's you practicing taqwa. So you get rewarded for that. And if we seek taqwa in our lives, then inshallah we guaranteed that when we die, we will die as Muslims, because taqwa will keep the integrity of our Islam and Iman and even Ihsan. It will help us sustain all of that, inshallah. Now, on the Day of Judgment, there is a scene that is described in Surah Al Imran, and that scene is a result of everything that one does on the day during his life, in this life here. And the ayah says, يَوْمَ تَبْيَضُّ وُجُوهٌ وَتَسْوَدُّ وُجُوهٌ. On the day where some faces will be white and bright and other faces will be dark and gloomy. Why? That's a question. And the answer comes, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ اسْوَدَّتْ وُجُوهُهُمْ أَكَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. Those whose faces are looking dark and gloomy, it is because they had the opportunity in this life to do good, and probably they did some good, but then they chose to mess it up for whatever reason. But at the end, it's the choice of one to do right and do good, No one is forcing anyone to be a kafir or an unbeliever. No one holds a gun to your head and force you to be an unbeliever. And even if they do that, it's still what's in the heart is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges us by. So those people that chose to mess up after they had the guidance, they have the knowledge what's halal and what is haram, and they chose to mess up. Whether it is a little or a lot, Allah knows the quantity that will cause the face to become black or dark and gloomy. And on the other hand, there is وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ بِيَضَّتْ وُجُوهُهُم, and those with the bright faces. And it doesn't matter what color skin you have. We're talking about the face being bright and light and beaming with light, beaming with happiness, versus a face that is dark and gloomy and beaming with worrying, beaming with fear, filled with fear, filled with all kind of negative things. Those are the two faces we're talking about. أما الذين ابيضت وجوههم ففي رحمة الله هم فيها خالدون. Why? I mean, those people that have those bright faces, beaming with light and optimism, beaming with positivity, beaming with happiness, because they done everything they were supposed to do in this life. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we all be among those ones that will come on the day of judgment with faces that are bright. يَسْعَى نُورُهُمْ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ, like it's described in the other surah, that our light will be preceding us and in our right hands, and will be hidden towards Jannah, and the angels will be telling us Salamun alaykum, that the angels will be greeting us the greetings of peace, inshallah. I mean, all this stuff that happen in this life will reflect in how we act and how we are treated on the day of judgment. And I hope none of us wants to be dragged on their faces to hellfire. None of us will be wanting to be changed in chains made of hellfire. None of us wants to be fed from shajarat al-zaqqum. None of us will be give a drink from the pus and boiling fluids that are in hellfire. None of us want that. And because of that, we need to plant the right tree. We need to establish ourselves as true believers with Allah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, true servants for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life. In this life, we have the chance to go slow, to go fast. We have the chance how close we want to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But on the day of judgment, your deeds put you where you end up being on that day. So inshallah, all of us will be among the good doers, the ones that are doing taqwa for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the proper way, the required way. Why? Because victory and support. And victory here, each one of us have our own personal battle with temptation, with the shaitan, with all the negative influences around us, even with our nature as a human being. And if we're not practicing sabr, fighting, being able to be persistent, fighting the temptations, whether it is from within or from outside, people around us, بَلَا إِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا, and those two things together, sabr and taqwa, that you be persistent in tolerating the pain that fighting temptations sometimes cause to us. Don't think that belief is going to be just an easy path that we just hop from one end to the other. No, it is a journey that's filled with sabr, tolerating the temptation, tolerating negativism thrown away, tolerating and being able to pass obstacles put in your pathway by the shaitan, by people around you that whether they are knowingly or not knowingly trying to push you away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you do have sabr and taqwa, the support and the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guaranteed for each one of us. And remember that at the end of the day, لله ما في السماوات والأرض ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض يغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله غفور رحيم. And those are three things. After acknowledging that everything in heavens and earth is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is not just belonging to Allah, the control over all of that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He controls everything that happens with us or around us, anywhere, anytime. And because of that, He's the one that will choose whom He wants to punish and whom He wants to forgive. And I hope we all are seekers of forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if we get forgiven, and I'm saying that because none of us, brothers and sisters, have lived without making a mistake here, a sin there. I mean, we all have our shortcomings, and the only difference between any two of us is the time or the severity of the shortcoming that we have. But if we all have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts, if we all turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking for forgiveness, if we all keep the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts, we'll be among those that will come with bright faces, happy faces on the day of judgment. We'll be the ones that the angels will be greeting us. We will be the ones having all the good fruits of being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. With this, inshallah, I end and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أن يزيل الغمة عن هذه الأمة وعن الناس جميعا، وأن يغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا. نسأله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعلنا من عباده المتقين، من عبادهم الذين أحبهم فهداهم إلى الصراط المستقيم في هذه الدنيا وفي الآخرة. And it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we ask, نسأله الهداية ونطلب منه العون في كل شأننا. It is Allah that we ask guidance from. It is Allah that we seek help and assistance from, that He will guide us on the straight path in this life and on the day of judgment. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.